Hello there, Internet. Welcome to the comic book Scramble. My name is Addison, and I like to talk about comics. Today I'm going to be talking about the second issue of Doom Patrol written by Grant Morrison. In the last episode, I talked about the first issue written by Grant Morrison, and we saw the establishment of moods and themes that are going to be running throughout his tutelage on the series. We also saw the establishment of the main characters and the setting of a foundation for future plot. So join me if you would as we explore this story and see how it unfolds. So like I said, today I'm talking about the second issue of Doom Patrol written by Grant Morrison. This is the issue number 20 of Doom Patrol after its restart from the original series. And it is part 2 of 4 in the Crawling Through the Wreckage storyline. So this issue opens up with a priest who no longer believes in God, or more so doesn't believe in miracles, doesn't believe in, the exact wording is, doesn't believe in miracles anymore. And so conveying the idea that doesn't believe in the fantastic, the divine. And he's walking through a dump looking for miracles. And I feel like this establishes the sort of a theme that's going to continue probably throughout the entire series of this idea, the idea of absurdism. And we saw that to an extent with the way the characters were established in the previous issue, with the idea of a man brain in a robot body, a man and a female entity, a genius that can't walk, a priest that doesn't believe in miracles. And walking through a dump looking for miracles further highlights this idea of absurdism, which states that it is pointless to look for meaning in a meaningless universe. And so this priest is walking through the dump looking for miracles, and he comes across a sign that says have faith in God. Of course, there's a little smudge on the sign, so it says have faith in cod. And immediately it starts raining down fish from the heavens. And out of all the fish, every type of fish you can imagine, oddly enough except for cod, there's no cod falling. And as soon as the priest realizes this, he gets smashed by a giant refrigerator. And I think this goes in tandem with the idea of absurdism, because absurdism states that there are 3 possible responses to when confronted with the absurdity of the universe. And the first one is to commit suicide. And if you look at this, the priest, when he realizes he's about to be smashed, at first glance, when I first looked at it, I assume, it's I'm looking up, the shadow's coming down over me, and I'm scared. But you'll notice he doesn't say no, he doesn't scream, oh my God, he doesn't run away, or anything like that. And the face is almost a little ambiguous. I think you could almost make the argument that it's the beginnings of a face that's of eagerness, anxiously awaiting his death as the priest has been confronted with the absurdity, or resignation at the very least. The second possible reaction to when confronted with the absurdity of the universe is religious or spiritual pursuit. And so again, I think this again conveys with the same theme, is the priest is looking for miracles, and he finally gets a miracle, and it rains fish down and he's told to have faith in God. And so perhaps he finally accepts that there is miracles and that there is the divine. But with that, as the creator of absurdism called it, called religious pursuit a philosophical death. And maybe that's what's happening with the priest. Once he accepts God, he dies, no longer is philosophically committed suicide. And then third one is the acceptance of the absurdism, or the absurdity of the universe. And with that, perhaps the fridge is simply a non sequitur, and just ends that little plot there. Following the scene in the dump, we are back at the hospital where Larry Traynor and Eleanor Poole were last seen. And the chief is talking to this newly formed entity, this combination of all three entities that were there the last time we saw him. And the character says, like, no, I'm not Larry. I am, and there's a quote that he uses, says something along the line of, my race is mixed, my sex is mixed, so I'm the lightness, I'm the dark, I am the mud and flame. And this is actually a quote from a British play called Pinda's Fin or something. I'll post a little picture of it up here. I can't remember what it was called. But it's a play that explores the fluidity of identity and the rejection of sort of like extreme ideologies. Furthermore, after that, the character says that he wishes to be called Rebus, which is a name used in alchemy for the end product of an alchemical process, often associated with the Philosopher's Stone, I believe. Maybe it's Rebus. I say Rebus. And with that, at the very end of that scene, the chief requests Rebus to... Rebus? Rebus. It's gotta be Rebus, right? Rebus. And with that, the chief asked Rebus to join the team. So following the scene with the chief and Rebus, we are introduced to a young boy sitting in his room, going over inner monologue style his thoughts for the day and how he's gonna have to go confess to a priest that he was looking at dirty magazines. And he ends up being the first victim of the Scissor Man, and we see him get just snipped out of reality. There's nothing but a white silhouette. And that's all we really get from this scene for now. Next, we are taken to the mental health facility where Cliff and Will Magnus are having a conversation in a canteen of some sort. And they're talking about how Cliff has started making progress on himself emotionally. I assume he seems to be very less resistant to letting people close and just overall better attitude. And Magnus associates this with the increased amount of time he has been spending with Crazy Jane. And he says, I think there's twofold to this. I think it shows that there is, first off, a relationship developing between Crazy Jane and Robot Man. However, I think it also, because Cliff talks about how he's helping her sort of catalog and organize her 64 different personalities and kind of help understand what's going on and help her get control of that. And I think that goes to show Cliff's natural leadership abilities, which is good for character development. And with that, as Will Magnus is leaving the scene, he says that he's going to build Cliff a new robot body. And as soon as Will Magnus leaves, Crazy Jane walks up, introducing herself as Driver 8. And this is significant because they go on to talk about how Driver 8 is the driver of the subway in the underground. And the underground is the area in Jane's subconscious where all of the personalities live when they are not in the forefront controlling Kay Chalice's body. I guess it's a little more complicated than that, but I think that that's kind of like the general concept being portrayed. And with the amount of establishing of what the underground is and how it works, I think we're probably going to wind up visiting the underground, probably in future trades down the line. So then as Crazy Jane and Cliff are walking, Ralph jumps out of a window from up high and falls to the ground, committing suicide, but his last few words are like, Scissor Man, snip, snip, snip. And so keep note, Ralph is dead. Following that, we are taken to a scene of the janitor that we saw in the previous issue who stuck the little orb in his pocket. And we see him on the subway talking to himself about how the orb he holds, and he looks at it, and the way he describes the orb reminds me it's very Lovecraftian in the way that trying to explain things that are beyond human comprehension. He talks about how it's moving without moving, and it's folding in on itself and unfolding and infolding, and he's going down all the different stops, and then all of a sudden he gets to a stop that he doesn't recognize, which is called Orquith, and it's made entirely out of bone, and the doors swing open and we get our first sight of the Scissormen. Then at the very end of the page, there's a quote. It says, "The doors flew open and in he ran, the red, long-legged Scissorman." And that is actually a quote from a German children's story where a boy gets his thumbs cut off because he was sucking his thumb. And the whole idea is that boys that suck their thumb get their thumbs cut off, which I think which is horrifying. That's the only reason I can assume Grant Morrison uses, because it's a terrifying concept, like German children's stories are. And I think that goes back to the boy, perhaps, that was originally caught looking at dirty magazines, was that he was doing something he wasn't supposed to and got cut out. I don't know if that's actually significant, but I think there's certainly a parallel there. Following that, we see Cliff in his room at the hospital, just writing. He starts to pick something up on his little robot ears. So he walks out, down some stairs, up some stairs, and all of a sudden he sees Crazy Jane cutting her wrists, saying, "Blood of the lamb, blood of the lamb, blood of the lamb." And then she accuses Cliff. She says, "I warned you, I tried to tell you they were coming, didn't I?" And so I think this is, and she's wearing a crucifix, which I hadn't seen her wear in previous ones, which I thought was interesting. But I didn't see, and I think that she's possessed by Ralph. I don't know if Ralph has become one of her personalities, or if one of her personalities has the ability to channel other people, or if there's something different altogether going on. But so she has a crucifix. She says, "I warned you, I tried to warn you." Like, what are you talking about? And she turns around, is like, "The Scissormen, they're here!" And they go and they see him, and Cliff's like, "Oh shit, we gotta get out of here." So they run off, and they burst into this room, and there's a doctor like halfway cut out, similar to the boy that we saw open his wardrobe. He sees him like halfway cut off, and he's talking about how they're cutting off his thumbs. And from there, the Scissormen burst through the wall, and Crazy Jane, new personality, takes over and teleports them outside. And from there, we see the entire courtyard is filled with these people that are cut up and cut out of reality, like the boy and like the doctor. I can't quite tell if they're running or if they got cut out while running, but nonetheless, the whole courtyard full of silhouettes of people cut out from reality, which is an interesting concept to try to think of someone, a hole in reality, which is interesting. I guess you had to do it for the art, and it's like more interesting this way. But if you removed like my person from reality, wouldn't there just be I just wouldn't be here, right? There's still the air and everything would be, which I don't know, I'm overthinking it clearly. And with that, on the very last page, you see that there's a series of anomalous sort of events happening all over the globe, giving you the idea that this is not an isolated incident, but a global event. Things like metal pyramids flying, and John Lennon, who I know Grant Morrison has a big ol' boner for, has like a statue of John Lennon is bleeding. And what else? And then a bunch of shadows strangling the people that they are shadows of, which is cool. And then finally, like a little clip cutting out of that from the German children's story, showing the Scissor Man cutting off the boy's thumb. And that's the end of this issue. Everything's all heating up, obviously. And thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. And I will see you for the next issue. Bye.